coming, the drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hello, and welcome back to Combat Boots to High Heels. This is KYLA, your host. I know I was going to continue talking about my family this episode. However, I want to change things up a little bit because of the current state that we've all been in from the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, and chat a little bit about that, the healthcare implications. Because of my public health degree background, I feel it's a little bit more important because right now we've all gone a little bit stir crazy, being cooped up in home, not being able to be sociable, moving out amongst the community like we did before this all took place and we were required to be home. I want everyone to understand that the importance of hand washing multiple times a day is very important with any virus, particularly with this, and that you need to wash your hands at least 20 seconds in hot, soapy, antibacterial, antifungal water. Helps with cleaning out any virus implications of any type. Now, there are a lot of strange things being said in the media about the use of disinfectants, the use of anti-malarial drugs to combat this. Don't use those. Please consult your doctor. Do not consult anybody other than a doctor or healthcare practitioner, because misinformation rises the morbidity rate to where it's insane. We've had enough deaths over this because of people not being able to get proper treatment. It is important that you call your doctor if you feel any of the symptoms, no matter where they're at. I understand that the healthcare workers are at their wits' end and that they need a break, but they are there to help you and to be able to answer any questions that you may have with this. So please make sure that you call your doctor, and those doctors' offices are trying their best. The public health departments are trying their best to answer any questions that you may have. If you are really bad off, then please go into the local emergency room and get medical care. If you are needing to have any tests done, please check with your hospital to see what their protocol is so you can get those tests done. I have a friend that called me today. She wasn't able to go and get her labs taken care of because the one doctor said that they weren't doing them. I told her to go check with her with the hospital and see what their protocol is for the lab work so she can make sure that her labs are done on time and properly. So it is important. You can always call and ask what your healthcare practices protocol is. That is important because that way you know when you get there. We went to an appointment that I tried 2 weeks before that to see the doctor when I was feeling symptomatic with issues. Lo and behold, they never called me back. And I don't know if that's due to the fact that they were overworked, understaffed. I don't know what the case was with that because the doctor didn't even know when we actually got in there for a regular appointment. Luckily, we were not contagious with the COVID-19 because my wife was hacking and coughing and she got seen. We actually got booted out of the doctor's office and then we were called to go have her tested. So I had to drive her all the way down to the drive-through testing facility in order to get her seen so we could get the results back. And this was near a weekend, so we didn't get the results back to that following Monday. Luckily, she was negative in that aspect. The most I was able to get was a chest x-ray, and yet my doctor's office still hasn't called me back with those results because they are trying their best with everything and all the patients that they have to see throughout the day. Be patient with your doctors. Be patient with your nurses. They need to have respect when you go in because they are trying their best. They have been working constantly, and I thank them for this. If you need assistance for medical issues, there's places that can get you the answers that you need. Pharmacies are even delivering, so you don't have to worry about going out if you're scared about getting something in the social distancing. Whether or not that will correct this, we don't know, because right now they're predicting, and this is only a prediction because of the way coronaviruses have been in the past, epidemiologically. With SARS, we saw a second outbreak of SARS 6 months later. MERS, the same thing happened, which is the Middle Eastern version of the coronavirus. With COVID-19, they have determined that this is a zoonotic, and what that means, if you're unfamiliar with that term, is that this is attributed from animals. So they put a smaller animal on top of a medium-sized animal on top of a larger animal in these foreign markets and these wet markets. So people go through and they're not the most sanitary conditions, but they buy the animal, it gets butchered for them in not the most sanitary condition. They go home, they eat it, they get sick, and it transmits. The Bronx Zoo has a program on Animal Planet that one of the tigers got sick and tested positive for the COVID-19. They don't know how the tiger got it. Back when the bird flu happened and the big cats were getting bird flu, it's because they ate infected meat. So they're not sure if that was the case with these tigers and it spread from there, but they've kept on top of it. And the animal laboratories that test for the animal viruses are just as booked and working as hard as they can, as well as the human laboratories that test for the human labs. They are two totally separate laboratories. Human labs cannot test animals. Animals cannot be tested at human laboratories because the chemical makeup and stuff for doing the labs is a little bit different according to the program that I watched. But with it being a zoonotic, it means it can be transferred from animal to human because the animal was the host. The humans eat the animal, and then it moves on from there and spreads. The human contagion part of it spreads from human to human. And then now, apparently, in the news, they have finally diagnosed a canine with it. So it's not a surprise because of it being a zoonotic setup that does mean that other animals can get it and it can be transmitted to other animals, as well as when it gets transmitted to humans. So you got to use precautions. Make sure if your animals are not feeling well, call your veterinarian and have your veterinarian check out your animal to make sure that your animal is healthy and that you are staying as healthy as possible as well. If we use our heads, don't hoard toilet paper, don't hoard masks. Right now, good luck if you can find any on the market because most everything is being shipped to hospitals, which they need them, which is nice. Do what you can to protect yourself, protect your loved ones. And if you need to have food delivered, have it delivered. Use your no contact delivery. It's real easy for us to want to break the quarantine and go be sociable again and try to get our favorite businesses to open up. But the quarantines are in place for a reason. It's not to punish anybody. It's to try to minimize risk. So by all means, follow what your government says. I noticed in the news the other day, the state of Hawaii is extending their quarantine for another month, and they feel that that's what's necessary to protect their people. It's a smaller island. Can you imagine if a bunch of infected people managed to go there? It would create havoc on those islands. So we need to follow what they're saying for the guidelines and the restrictions that have been placed. And I want you to be safe. I want you to understand that the governors are doing their best to try to protect the people in their state. This is something that's very serious. It's something that can affect everybody. There's been fake news out there, how this was started by the LGBT community. There's been news reports that it's just been some religious rhetoric as far as how this has gone. The true point and factor of this is it did originate in China. They couldn't find the patient zero aspect because by the time they discovered that wet market was already sold out, dissipated, and everybody was gone. So that makes it a little bit more difficult in finding treatment. If you see rumors that there's a COVID virus, antivirus out there, there is for the previous strains in the COVID family. That's all, not COVID, I'm sorry, Corona. The Corona family is made up of the SARS, the MERS, COVID-19. Those previous viruses, they've been able to produce an antiviral for. However, that doesn't affect the new strain. If you look at the flu shots that we get and that they have available and the pneumonia shots and the whooping cough, sorry to say, but the reality of that is it's from last year's strain of the virus, not the current strain, because we can't get the current strain of the virus from the southern hemisphere to the pharmaceutical companies to create the antivirals in time to protect us against the new strain of the virus. With that, it does help because all the other strains continue to flow through with like the flu and pneumonia, the whooping cough. I myself, with the alternative medicine background that I have from my bachelor's degree, I believe in herbal and complementary medicine practices and using some of those in order to combat what I have going on. So I'm not afraid to go out and purchase some moonshine or try to acquire what I need to as far as herbal remedies, essential oils, things of that nature. But you need to make sure that you use them properly. Do not overuse those items because overusing those items takes it from a medicinal aspect to a much larger aspect